And hello, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of WorldWar2Chat, the podcast where the history is real and the arguments are even realer. My name is Tim, and as always, I'm joined by the man who probably proofreads primary sources for fun, Jack.
Someone has to. Welcome, everyone.
Each week, we're diving headfirst into the myths, the machines, and the moments of the Second World War. And Jack, for our first episode, I want to start with a sound that could be your best friend or your worst enemy. The M1 Garand, the sound of an empty clip. The legend says that single ping was a dinner bell for German soldiers, a signal that the GI was empty and vulnerable. It's cinematic, it's terrifying, and it's one of the most enduring legends of the war.
And it's complete and utter nonsense. We're 1 minute in and you're already quoting Hollywood, Tim.
Hold on. Don't just shoot it down. Think about the logic. You're a German infantryman. You're pinned down by this rifle that never seems to stop firing, and then you hear that. You know he's out. You have a 3, maybe 4 second window to charge him while he fumbles for a new clip. That's an eternity in a firefight.
A 4-second window that exists in a complete vacuum, maybe? And it's not fumbling. GIs drilled that reload until it was pure muscle memory. We're talking 2, maybe 3 seconds for a proficient soldier. But let's ignore that for a second and focus on the bigger issue. The sheer, deafening noise of a World War II battlefield. You think in the middle of overlapping machine gun fire, an MG-42 firing at 1,200 rounds a minute, by the way, plus mortar explosions, artillery, tank treads clanking, guys screaming, that you're going to pick out the faint ping of a single rifle clip?
It's a very distinctive sound. High-pitched, metallic. It's not a low thud. It's a sound that could cut through the bass and rumble of the battlefield.
Right. The physics just aren't there. We're talking about a sound that's maybe 80 decibels at the source, competing with a soundscape that's constantly peaking at 140, even 150 decibels. A Stuka's siren was designed specifically to be a terror weapon that you could hear over everything else. The Garand's ping was not. It's a fairy tale.
It's a battlefield legend, Jack, passed down by the soldiers themselves. That has to count for something. It's part of the human story of the war.
It counts as good folklore, I'll give you that, but it's tactically absurd. Let's move past the noise and talk tactics. No GI fought alone. He was part of a squad. If my rifle ping's empty, the other 7 guys in my squad are still very much in the business of sending 30 caliber rounds your way. So are you, the supposedly clever German soldier, going to charge into the gun sights of an entire squad on the off chance you heard one guy run dry?
What if the GI was alone? A scout gets cut off. A soldier gets separated from his unit in the chaos of a firefight in the Hjorten forest. In that one-on-one situation, the ping becomes a massive liability.
Even then, the doctrine doesn't support it. A soldier's primary objective when separated is to rejoin his unit, not to set up elaborate audio traps for the enemy. His mind is on survival and repositioning. Besides, the idea that the enemy is just sitting there, patiently listening for a single sound instead of actively trying to kill you, is fundamentally flawed. It's tactical suicide.
Okay, fair point on the squat. But you can't ignore the other part of the legend, the trick. The story goes that GIs would get wise to this and throw an empty clip on the ground to make a ping sound, tricking the enemy into charging into a kill zone. You can't deny the cleverness there.
I can and I will deny it, vehemently. That's even more ridiculous. First of all, you think a clip hitting the dirt sounds the same as a spring-loaded ejection from a metal receiver? It doesn't. Second, you're in a firefight for your life, and your brilliant idea is to take your hand off your weapon to throw a tiny, essential piece of metal? What if you miss or it doesn't make a sound? You've just wasted precious seconds and advertised your position.
It sounds like good old American ingenuity to me. Think it outside the box.
It sounds like something a screenwriter invented because it was a cool scene. The risk is insane, and the reward is non-existent. It's a myth built on top of another myth. And it disrespects the soldier's intelligence by assuming they'd try something so foolish.
All right, Mr. Debunker, fine. So if the ping wasn't a fatal flaw, what was it? An accident? A design oversight from the great John Garand? It seems like an obvious thing to try and eliminate if it wasn't supposed to be there.
No. That's the beautiful part. It wasn't a flaw at all. It was a feature. It was a brilliant piece of human factors engineering decades before that term even existed.
A feature? How?
In the chaos and terror of combat, you get tunnel vision. You lose track of things. You're not sitting there calmly counting your shots 1 through 8. You're firing, moving, trying not to die. The ping was an unmistakable, tactile, and audible signal for the user. It told the GI, "You are empty. Reload. Now." Your body knew it before your brain even had to process it. It's the rifle communicating directly with the soldier under the worst stress imaginable.
So the sound that legend says was meant for the enemy was actually for the GI himself, a personal notification system.
Exactly. It's why General Patton called it the greatest battle implement ever devised. It wasn't just about rate of fire, it was about the entire system being designed for the soldier. The testimony from actual combat veterans overwhelmingly backs this up. The new guys, the green troops, might have worried about it, but the men who survived the hedgerows and the islands knew the truth. They said you couldn't hear it in combat and that the only thing it signaled was that it was time to get back to work.
I have to admit, that makes a lot more sense. The rifle as an intuitive tool, not just a mechanism. But you have to concede this, Jack. The myth survives for a reason. It's a powerful story. It distills the vast, impersonal chaos of war down to this tiny, intimate sound, a duel between two soldiers hanging on a single ping.
Oh, I'll concede that. It's a fantastic piece of storytelling, and it's important to study the folklore of war just as much as the hardware. It tells you what soldiers feared, what they valued, what they told each other in the dark. The idea of being caught vulnerable is a powerful one, and the ping became the symbol for that fear.
So it's a great story, but a terrible piece of history.
Precisely. And our job here is to, hopefully, untangle the two. The M1 Garand was a legendary weapon that needs no myths to make it great. The ping wasn't a flaw, it was just another part of its genius.
A fitting end to our first debate. All right, that's all the time we have for this episode of World War II Chat. A huge thanks to all you for tuning in. And hey, since this is our first ever episode, if you enjoyed this debate and want to hear us argue about more tanks, planes, and tactics, do us a huge favor.
Hit that subscribe button below and make sure you ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next episode. It helps the channel more than you know.
It helps the algorithm find us.
Right, that too.
We'll be back next week or tomorrow to argue about whether the Tiger tank was a masterpiece or a logistical nightmare.
Oh, it was a nightmare.
Until then, I'm Tim.
And I'm Jack.
Stay historical.